1-2 दिन में फिर वो चला जाएगा।
ठीक। Let's wait for some times, then we'll start. Abhiraj? Hello, Abhiraj.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
How are you feeling in the classes? What's your opinion? Is it worthwhile?
Yes, sir. It is very good.
But people are not joining. They are taking their own way. But why the people is saying, Acha, now it is showing. The subject is tough and the practical aspect is much more complicated. But people are not understanding that unlike YouTuber, I am trying to show you the exact picture and each and every minute step. But they want the YouTube video. They like YouTube video. But I cannot decorate my class, no? I have some decorum, and for professional classes, I should maintain the class discipline also. So it cannot be comparable with the YouTuber. But it will have the all materials which YouTuber cannot show you. They will only show the jhalak. Anyway, let's start so that latecomer will suffer. I share my screen right now. Is the screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as of as on today, we'll discuss the most vital part of the GST, that is reconciliation and assessment. I once again repeat that filing of income tax or GST return is a clerical job. One single clerk, if you train him, they can do it. He can do it. He or she can do it easily because there is nothing. Everything is be auto inbuilt format. They have to put the input data, nothing else. No brain is required. But here, your professionalism will come into the picture. That what is the meaning of reconciliation assessment? After filing of GST return each and every month or quarterly, whatever the case may be, at the year end, whether it is compulsory for you or not, because up to 2 course annual return of GST is not compulsory. But each and every assessee must reconcile the return which they have submitted in the GST portal with the books of accounts, and if there is any anomalies, file the annual return after correcting the data. Now, what happens when the assessee is not under compulsion of filing annual return? They have not reconciled the data and leave it alone as it is. But when they will awake, when they receive the notice from the GST department or ask some clarification, they will awake and see what they mistake, but that is too late. I have dealt with many cases where the time has been elapsed for rectification or filing. Even some businessman ignores the notification also, notice also. What happened? I'll ignore it. This should not be like that. If there is any law, there is a rule, you have to follow that one. Otherwise, you will have to face the consequences. Now, how to reconcile in GST? What is reconciliation? The reconciliation means matching of the sales and purchase data with the different returns. Where from you got that sales and purchase data? From your books of accounts, purchase ledger, sales ledger, tally accounts, or if you keep the manual account, you have to keep the data with that. So, reconciliation means comparing or matching the sales figure, purchase figure, amount paid figure, turnover figure with the GST return, quarterly or monthly, whatever the case may be. Now, in my office, reconciliation of different clients are going on because March quarter is coming, March is coming, and before end of the 31st March, all the accounts have to be reconciled for every assessee, every client of my every client, so that if there is any mistake, I can rectify within 31st March, and later on I cannot face the notices, and my client will not face any harassment. So, what are the why reconciliation is needed? जरूरत क्या है इसका? It ensures accurate ITC claim. The claiming of ITC, availability of ITC or claiming of ITC, this is two are different things. You may see different figures in availability and claiming. Whatever available in the portal, you should not take, because all ITC is not for you. You have to judge, scrutinize each and every in ITC, whether you are eligible to claim that ITC or not. Otherwise, you will be put in a big trouble. Now, what are the differences of that? Discrepancy in sales details between GSTR 3B and GSTR 1, which I was told yesterday. The sales turnover as per GSTR 3B and GSTR1 must match each other. If it is not matched, you have to reconcile the things and keep it in note, so that at the time of, if you receive any notice, you have to explain that one. Sometimes what happens, you have to file the GSTR1 invoices, but later on the figures of GST, invoice amount is differing, amended. Then amended figure has been taken, is taken in GSTR 3B. In that case, GSTR 1 sales figure and GSTR 3B outward taxes, outward supply amount will differ. But this should not be like that. In Coal India, I have seen many across, many items like this, because they are in a single day, thousands of bills are raising. So there may be some mistake in measurement or weighing. So this type of mistakes happen, but they have the track of the reconciliation and put in the annual return, so that notices is not coming. Now another thing is that difference is coming. ITC value available in the GSTR 2B and ITC available in your books of accounts. It's a very common. How it has coming? Why the difference is coming? Because you have received the purchase bill and booked ITC in your books of accounts, but that supplier is not uploaded his invoices. That is not reflected in 2B. That is the reason of differences between GSTR 2B and ITC, as per books of accounts. So if you do not reconcile, you cannot catch hold that person who has not uploaded the GST. As per GST Act, if you don't have any GST available in the GSTR 2B, you cannot claim that ITC. Previously 10%, 5% was available, was there. You can take the whatever the amount is reflecting in the GST 2A. At that time, that was in GST 2A. So you have to take 5% or 10% more. But right now there is no such scope. If it is not reflected in GST 2B, you cannot claim. If you claim, it will be, you will face the consequences in the time of assessment. So these two figures should match. The GSTR ITC available, value available as per books of account, and ITC available as per GSTR 2B. Difference in sales details in the books of accounts and GSTR 1. Turnover as per your books of accounts versus turnover as per GSTR 1. Number 3, difference in tax payable after comparing the auto-populated GST with the books of accounts. Your books of accounts shows that you have tax due on 15 lakhs, but here GST 3B shows that it is 17 lakhs. You have to reconcile why that differences has come, whether your books of accounts is correct or auto-populated GST 3B is correct. If auto-populated GST 3B is not correct and you are sure that your books of account is giving correct picture, you have to correct the correct in GST 3B account filing. Difference between the amount of input tax credit shown in the GST 3B and GST 2B. There is a figure 10 lakhs ITC is available and that is valid, and you claim as per your books of account 17 lakhs. That means there are two mismatch. So this is one of the cause. These are the causes of differences between income tax GST return as per portal and as per your books of account. But one thing you must be careful that before starting reconciliation, you must 100% sure that your books of account is 100% correct. Otherwise, there will be no meaning of reconciliation of the GST portal versus books of accounts. Because if your books of accounts is not correct, then what we will establish in both the cases? So, before going for reconciliation, each and every entry should be checked thoroughly and it should be correct as per your books of accounts. So far, your information, you are having information books, sales invoice, purchase invoice, and amount paid challan, etc. Anybody has any question on the GST reconciliation? Anybody has any question? Is there any question? No question. Okay. Now, what are the different causes of mismatches? Mismatch in GST are 2B and purchase book, purchase record. Purchase record means purchase ledger or purchase day book. If the ITC auto-populated GST 2B does not match with purchase invoices, it leads to discrepancy in tax credit. It means GST 2B is auto-populated in the GST portal. And you have to match with this GST portal, GST 2B with your purchase invoices. Otherwise, you cannot have the correct figure of ITC claiming. Second reason is delayed or non-filing by supplier. I have already told that if the supplier is not uploading his invoices, you will not. This is not reflected in the GST at 2B. Wrong GST mention, GST number mentioned. If the supplier mentioned wrong GST number, it is not reflected in your GST 2B. Invoice date and period mismatch. Supplier is QRMP scheme or you are in monthly scheme. You have purchased a item in December. Naturally, you will expecting to reflect it in the December return filing by the supplier. But they are filing in the March quarter. That means after December quarter. So, the period mismatch can also affect the differences, mismatching as per your record and as per the GST portal. Next, tax calculation error. You have calculated 18%, but actually it will be 28% or something else. Rounding of issue. These are the incorrect taxable value you have taken. So tax calculation has been wrongly calculated in your books of accounts. But in GST portal, it is calculated automatically. So you have some mismatch cases. Reverse charge mechanism issues. RCM cases in recipient pay the taxes. I have told yesterday that for security services, recipient should pay the taxes. Now, if the RCM he has to show it in GSTR 1 as per reverse charge mechanism system and claim the ITC in the GSTR 3B. same amount. But in some of the cases, it may happen he shows 2 lakhs in the GSTR 1 and here it is showing 1,75,000 or 2,25,000. So there should be a mismatch. Now amendment or correction of the returns. Sometimes returns are amendments of the invoices is doing in the subsequent period. So if it is not knowing you, supplier amended his invoices, but you didn't know. In that case, this is also be problem for you, the case of mismatches. So when the supplier amend his invoices, he should inform you. Otherwise, you have to see whether there is any mismatch or not. In this reason also, there may be mismatch. So you have to take into consideration this aspect also. Ineligible ITC claim. You have claim which is not your ITC. I have given one example yesterday that I have received some ITC but which is not pertaining to my account. It should not pass on to me. I can given the example of HDFC Bank charges. Bank charges including GST has been deducted from my account. But when they reverse on my request, they have requested entire amount credited in my account. But they should and input when they charges input credit has been given to us, passed on to us. But at the same time, when they reverse the bank charges, that should be excluding reverse charge and the GST amount. The amount should be 1,500 should be reversed, but they have forgotten to. They have reversed 1,700. As a result of which, I have a input credit which is not belongs to me. I should not claim that input credit, and that has been reconciled under when it has been reconciled. It has been pointed out, it has been noted, and in the next quarter when I given the return, I will adjust this ITC. I'll keep the ITC claim set aside and will not claim, because if the ITC is not belongs to me and I claim it and it caught in the assessment at the time of scrutiny or assessment, which I am coming in the latter part, heavy penalty will be on the person who has wrongly claimed. Now, why reconciliation is required for accurate ITC claim? Now, after seeing the causes of reconciliation mismatching, you can understand why the reconciliation is so important in GST. It is very, very important for reconciliation, whether or not you are supposed to file annual return or not. But GST reconciliation is must before 31st March. Before finalizing your account, you have to reconcile each and every entry along with the portal and the balance payable as per your liability balance sheet for March month or March quarter must match with the GST portal, or advance tax you have paid must match with the GST portal. It is a very important aspect of GST Act. If you fail to reconcile and there is a mistake found in the latter part, you will have a problem. So first, accurate ITC claim For claiming ITC accurately, you have to reconcile. Avoid interest and penalties. If you wrongly claim, you have to face the interest and penalties. Compliance with the GST law. GST law prescribes that you have to reconcile the data with your books of accounts for compliance of the GST laws or in all respect. Correct tax payment. Until and unless you reconcile, how can you know the what tax liability is, what is the correct tax liability? Reduce the chances of ITC reversal. If you regularly reconcile each and every month, the reversal of ITC can be minimized. Simplifies annual return filing. Where if you regularly reconciling in after each return, it will simplify your annual return filing. So now I am coming to the GSTR reconciliation. What are the different steps of GSTR reconciliation? Number one, collection of data, GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, GSTR 2B, and extract from purchase register, sales register. These are the basic documents. Download GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, GSTR 2B, and extract from Tally or any other software or books of account the purchase register, sales register. Reconcile outward supply first. Reconcile input tax credit. Reconcile outward supply with the GSTR 1 and ensure the GSTR 3B reflects the correct sales as per GSTR 1. Reconcile the ITC as per GSTR 2B. ITC not appearing in GSTR 2B should not be taken in the GSTR 3B. Verify the reversal of ITC blocked credits and ineligible credits. If you are having blocked credits or ineligible credits, you should not touch that one. You should keep set aside. It should be showing in the portal. When the other party find out, he can send the rectification. For that, you have to keep the space. Verify the tax payment from your challan and GST portal cash ledger. Identify and rectify the mismatches as per reconciliation. Any missing ITC or any subsequent returns or adjustment in the books. File adjustment and correction. File amendments and correction. If that reflect additional liability, if any, in upcoming GST 3B, adjust in the next month, next return if there are any excess claims or dominant. In our cases, we have already claimed the ITC. I have to amend that one in the next quarter. Now this is all about GST reconciliation. I have already told what are the cases of GST reconciliation, what are the situation under which mismatching maybe happen, what are the different steps, why it is required, GST reconciliation. Please tell me if there is any question from your end. Have you any question? Is there any question? Anybody can tell. Ask me if there is any issue or if you are not understood any item. Is it clear to everybody? Okay. Now, if there is no question, I can go further. Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go. Now, you must understood that what GST reconciliation means, what are the different steps, how to reconcile, what are the documents required for reconciliation, and what is the benefit of reconciliation. Now I will show you the different assessment of GST. Rimi,
Yes, sir.
वो फीडबैक फॉर्म चैट बॉक्स में दे दिया.
हाँ सर.
हाँ, everybody is requested to fill up the feedback form before leaving the meeting, class. Now this one. Now these are the types of assessment. Assessment by the taxpayer and by tax authority. Taxpayer can also assess, which is called self-assessment, for determining the tax liability. In each and every time while filing GST or 3B, assessee, taxpayer must assess the assessment. Otherwise, how can he determine the tax payable? So, assessment, self-assessment is always done by the taxpayer. But what are the duties or authority of the tax authority, tax department, GST department? There are three types of assessment. Number one, provisional assessment. Number two, base judgment assessment. And number three, summary assessment. And number four is scrutiny assessment. And for base judgment assessment, there are two categories: non-filers or unregistered persons. And coming each and every point one by one. Now, first, self-assessment. Every registered taxable person shall themselves assess their taxes payable and furnish a return for each tax period. That means before filing income GST or 3B, all assessee must assess their tax liability. Now, what is provisional assessment? Sometimes there is a provision in the GST Act. Assessee can request for provisional assessment in writing to the assessing officer. Why he will do it? Because in case of he is unable to calculate the transaction value, if the transaction value is complicated, place of supply, time of supply, and value of the additional value addition, there may be complication. Assessee cannot do alone. He can request for provisional assessment. Understand, if he is unable to understand whether certain receipts can be included or not, that means whether ITC should be claimed or not, he is unable to assess. Classify the goods or services, whether it is a goods or it is a services, or goods and services both. Identify whether certain receipts should be included or not. So, under these circumstances, an assessee can request for provisional assessment to the proper officer. Proper officer means his jurisdictional officer. Now, tax officer will do? He will allow him to pay the tax at a specified rate or value, on specified value, and the taxpayer must furnish a bond with the security, ensuring that any difference of tax arising out of provisional assessment he will pay. the officer must pass the order within 90 days of the request. Before final assessment, additional information may be sought and the provisional assessment must be followed by a final assessment. So these are the cases where one assessee can, where the complications are there, the assessee is not understood the what is the tax liability, whether the input tax credit will be taken or not, whether what is the value of the assessable value, taxable value. So he can request to a proper officer of his jurisdiction. He can direct him that you pay at 18% or 20%, 28% or 12%, whatever the case may be, with amounting with the value of this amount. And if there is any difference between after assessment, provisional assessment, you have to pay, and for that assessee should submit a bond. The officer should pass the final order within 90 days of the provisional order. But this is a provisional order, keep it in mind. Final assessment may differ from that. But each and every provisional assessment must be followed by a final assessment. This is a provisional assessment. There is a scope for provisional assessment when there is a very complicated situation. I am giving one example. One person, there are different types of situation come arise. It is not understood that what is the place of supply. In some cases, it is very difficult to identify place of supply. As you know, that GST is a destination-based tax. That means where the actual recipient resides, tax will be calculated as per that place. So, place of supply is very, very important. And another one is time of supply. So, in two cases, and the value of the taxable value, additional value addition by the assessee. It is happening in case of some process industries or fabrication industries, where it is complicated, who has added value on what amount, and whether this amount has to be taken, ITC should be claimed by X or Y. Because in fabrication industry, one particular job is fabricated in different location, and it is a very complicated procedure when it is coming on the process industry also. So in 2-3 cases, it may happen that there is a complicated situation where the assessee cannot accurately calculate the taxable amount. So he can take the help of proper officer of his jurisdiction, requesting him to provisional assessment to avoid the further notice. Next, scrutiny assessment. Scrutiny assessment means proper officer may scrutinize the return and related particulars furnished by the registered person to verify the correctness of the return and inform him of any discrepancies. That means the proper officer should scrutinize, verify, examine the different records you have produced through the return. And if he finds any discrepancy, he can shout for any explanation or further information. And in this case, reply should be given within 15 days. So there will be two situations. Either the registered person should accept the discrepancies and rectify and any amount due to him and pay the amount due. Or if he is not agreeing with the discrepancy found by the officer, he can contest and give the explanation, and if his explanation is satisfactory, the officer can set aside with the his scrutiny and order will be passed. Otherwise, he can give explanation, pass an order within 30 days, or assessee cannot rectify the discrepancies within the reasonable time, within 30 days. He can pass the order, conduct an audit under section 65, special audit under 66, where our cost accountant's role is coming. As per GST Act, cost accountant can conduct special audit. Now GST audit has been abolished, but special audit still is there under section 66. Conduct of audit under section 65 should be done by the department, and that should be ordered by a commission. I am coming to the next point, next slide. Inspect or search the places of business and the taxpayer. Initiate demand and recovery provision. Send notices of outstanding demand under section 73 or 74. So, if after scrutinization, some discrepancies arises between the records produced before the officer versus the return filed by you, the order may pass for rectifying the discrepancies or pay the additional amount of tax. If you do not do like that, within 30 days, he can order for audit by the department under section 65, by cost accountant or chartered accountant by under section 66, or order for inspect and search, initiate demand recovery position, send notice outstanding demand under section 73, 74, which is very serious. So, scrutiny assessment means after due verification of your records along with the returns filed, finding out the discrepancies, if any. That is scrutiny assessment. Now, best judgment assessment. The assessing officer under the assessment has an obligation to make an assessment of the total income or less of a taxpayer to the best of his judgment in the following cases. The persons who are not filing the GST return, even if he is a registered dealer, he will assess under section 62 the value of the amount liable to pay by the assessee and give him direction that within 30 days you have to pay the taxes. That is best judgment assessment. Whatever the records he found, he have to best judge, as because he has not filed any return. The officer assess on his prudency for assessing the quantum of GST amount which should be paid by the assessee to the GST department. That is called best judgment assessment. And assessment for unregistered person. Even if a person is not registered, GST authority has the authority to assess that person amount. If he thinks that the person has crossed the threshold limit but has not registered, so he can assess the value of tax and can direct him to pay the taxes, even if he is not a registered dealer. So this is a base judgment assessment. The base judgment assessment is only the discretionary power of the assessing officer, which may correct, may not correct. Dispute comes here, litigation comes from here, because there is no point of, I think the amount of tax evasion is 20 lakhs, but the person is calling the, it may 10 lakhs. There is a litigation. Now, case, counter case, appeal, counter appeal. But as per the GST Act, there is a provision for base judgment assessment where the registered dealer has failed to file the GST return. I have faced a lot of cases after 2-3 years. A person has come, sir, I have taken the GST registration, but I did not do any business. But now in GST department sending my notice and claiming 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, like this. First, he has done a mistake, not filing the return properly. Second, how he will claim? If he has to claim that the order passed for paying the tax is not correct, he has to keep the record. If he keeps the record and able to satisfy the assessing officer, it will be fine. Otherwise, with late fee interest, you have to pay the tax. Similar case for unregistered person also. What I mean to say that even if you did not file the return, but you have to keep the records to satisfy against the notices come. If you do not have the records, if you cannot satisfy, you have to pay. Otherwise, you have to go to jail. There's no other alternative. What is the summary assessment? The assessment is done by the assessing officer when he has sufficient grounds to believe that any delay in assessing a tax liability can harm the interest of the revenue. In order to protect the interest of the revenue, he can pass summary assessment of the on the basis of evidence of tax liability. Okay, 1 minute. हेलो, अब मैं क्लास करा रहा हूँ, बाद में बात करूंगा. कल ऑफिस में आके बात करना, ठीक है? Summary assessment order can be given only by additional and joint commissioner. And summary assessment is a fast track process. Within 30 days of receiving the order, the taxpayer can apply for withdrawal within 30 days of receiving the order. Fast track assessment, when the summary assessment order is given, when the assessing officer believes that there is a sufficient ground that there is a tax evasion, he can give the summary assessment. But if he not reflecting correctly, he can give the summary assessment order. There is a delay, where that delay may occur. Now 1920, 2021 assessment is done, but in big cases summary assessment order has already been passed, because in regular course it will take time for assessment, and if heavy revenue has been suppressed, not paid by the assessee, revenue department will face a loss. So summary assessment in that case pass the order by additional or joint commissioner for fast track assessment, so that revenue, if any, hidden by the assessee can be recovered in timely manner. That's all, nothing else. So these are the cases for GST assessment and reconciliation part, scrutiny part. If you have any question on this point, in any point, please tell me, I'll explain again. Saili, have you any question? Saili? Saili has not.
Yes,
Have you any question?
yes, sir. I have one question.
Yes, tell
That
me.
invoice reconciliation related.
Yes.
If that other persons has not informed you that there is any changes in the prices of the invoices, then it's how to rectify and upload the correct invoices as per
Okay.
that person.
Okay. So, if you find any anomalies, mismatch in the reconciliation procedure, it will come in automatically in the reconciliation procedure, and you find that your GST prices, your invoice price is not tallying with the total ITC credit. This is your question, na? Is this your question? The value of ITC
Yes, sir.
does not match with your invoices. Okay, that means afterwards
Yes.
the supplier has been changed the invoice value but did not inform you. In that case,
Yes.
you have to take up the matter with the supplier itself and see a revised return for revised invoice, and ask him to give debit or credit note in the so that you can also accommodate that one for adjusting the input tax credit. That is the only solution.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Got it? That means if he
Yes,
changed the
sir.
invoice value, he have already passed. So you have to take the debit or credit memo if the invoice value has been changed. There is no other alternative. Anybody has any question? Obiraj,
Yes, sir.
any question?
Sir, please explain one first, from the first and second slide. This reasons behind mismatch. GSTR 1 and 3B and books and 3B, sorry, 1 and 2 and 2B. Is
I could not
little
got
bit
your
I
point.
confused.
What to be explained,
The
bolo?
slide number 1, sir. Slide number 1, sir. Once again you explain.
Slide number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
This one.
Yes, sir. This mismatch difference. What are
Discrepancies
the
in
reasons?
sales details between GSTR 3B and GSTR 1.
Yes, sir.
Huh. What I told you, you have while filing GSTR 1, you have taken 20 invoices and uploaded that one and filed the GSTR 1 with a value of 2 lakhs. After that, you have found that you have done a mistake. That should not be 2 lakhs, that should be 1,90,000. And you correct that one in the GSTR 3B showing 1,90,000 and calculated the tax liability and paid that one. But in that case, the turnover as per GSTR outward taxable value as per GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 will mismatch. Got my point?
Yes, sir. So what we can take, sir, action? We have to
Yes,
amend GSTR
you have
one,
to,
or we
yes,
can.
listen, it should be, if that 1,90,000 is correct, you should keep it as it is, and at the time of annual return you have to correct GSTR 1 figure.
Yes, sir. In 99C.
Yes, yes, you have to correct at that time. That is why reconciliation is required. Any other person has any question?
And sir, one doubt. In
Yes.
monthly GSTR 3B, we can reconcile with 3B.
Hmm.
We reconcile with our books with 2A.
Yes.
2B.
To
Sorry,
be.
2B. In annual, why we reconcile in annual basis with 2A?
Yes.
What are
Now,
the different?
now I am telling you. You are reconciling as per 2B, and while in annual return the same figure will be appear in the GSTR 2A in the annual return. 2A or 2B, what does it mean? That means the input tax credit. So you have to assess the actual input tax credit against your books, whether it is as per 2A or is 2B, that doesn't matter. If it is correct, you will do not find any discrepancy in annual return. If you correctly find the 2B and regularly reconcile that 2B, you will not find any discrepancy in an annual return. Even if you have any discrepancy in 2A and 2B in annual return, if there is that has to be rectified at the annual return. But it never happens if you reconcile regularly with the 2B. It never happens until and unless there is a error in portal. Now, got my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other person for any question? Any question? If you don't have any question, please fill up the feedback form and you can leave. And don't miss next 4 days classes, that is based on our cost records, cost audit, and cost accounting standard. These are very vital, and if you miss that one, you will miss a lot. Ask the friends, everybody. I'll put the in the post in the group tomorrow morning. Don't miss these 4 classes because this is our core subject. Please fill up the feedback form.